What's up, Keith?
Oh, we figured it out. I'm sorry, man. I'm an old man. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I didn't. I think I invited you incorrectly. I'm sorry about that.
Cool. Well, I'm here. We did it.
Awesome, we did it. Let me adjust here now that it pushed me up. So, just to intro to everybody, Keith is the owner of TimeBlasterToys. They're located in Michigan. What was the town in Michigan up there?
We're in Westland, Michigan. So we're like, what, maybe 20 to 25 minutes outside of Detroit, suburb of Detroit.
Oh, awesome, awesome. And how long have you all been in business?
Well, the shop itself, probably almost 2 years, but I've been selling toys on the internet for like 10 years, man. So I've been doing it forever.
So you were also amassing inventory as you sold online, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, that was the trick, honestly, was like just getting enough toys to open a shop. So like once we decided, my wife and I, like, okay, we want to do this, I probably spent a good 6 to 9 months just buying inventory to fill the shop. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But once it opened, dude, you open a shop, right, and you tell people that you buy, sell, and trade toys, there will be no shortage of toys coming in the front door. It's like nonstop all day long.
Everybody wants you to buy their stuff.
Yeah, honestly, they really do. So it's just a matter of, trying to keep the shop clean, get the stuff priced, and put it out for sale.
That's great. I'm glad it's going well. It looks like we'll be able to take everyone around the shop here on the live and give them a little tour. It looks like a great shop from what I've seen. It's like a time warp in there.
It is. All right, I'm going to turn the camera around to show you guys some stuff. So, well, this is like behind the counter, right? So up here, guys, this is like a bunch of box TMNT vehicles.
There we go. That's the nostalgia right there.
Yeah, so a lot of that stuff's sealed. Some of it isn't sealed. This is where we take our pictures for eBay, right? It's a big part of our business. This is my wife, Melanie, also taking pictures.
Hello. She's like, get away.
Yeah. So this is our Super Soaker wall.
Oh, wow. Are those all, is that just display Super Soaker decor?
Yeah, just displays. If I get doubles, I'll sell them, but anytime I can get my hands on like one that I don't have, I'll add it to the wall. There's
there
Power
you
Glove.
go.
Everybody knows that, right?
The biggest letdown in video game history, though.
I know, man. Victoria. I showed this off on a reel before.
Oh, man.
The old McDonald's
those hook toys.
Bunch of Zords we got this past week. We got some comic books. We got some arcade games. All right, guys, ready for this one?
My son has been saying how much bad he wants a Technodrome, so.
The thing. So that one right there, guys, is factory sealed.
Oh, wow.
We got some Legos. But behind the counter, we got a Loose Boy, too.
Oh, look at that thing. I never had the Technodrome. I was like, as a kid, my parents were so generous with buying me any action figure I wanted, but play sets were few and far between.
Really? Man, that's too bad. That's too bad, though, because the Technodrome is like an iconic play set, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like, I remember getting Castle Grayskull. That was a game changer, but.
Really? Yeah,
so,
same here, man. I feel like everyone our age or in our age group, you had a Castle Grayskull, right? It's like one of the most iconic play sets ever.
I saw that Crossfire re-release. I still have that when it came out at Toys R Us. I haven't opened it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that one's been opened and played with a little bit. It still holds up, though, right? Yeah. Crossfire is an excellent game.
I mean, that commercial itself was Crossfire.
They knew how to get you hyped.
So I was going to ask you, like, you said you were selling for like a decade before getting a shop. Like, what were you a toy collector, like leading into adulthood, like that carry over, or like what got you into reselling? And
yeah, man. I mean, I've been into toys my whole life, right? Collecting toys as a kid, and then you get older and maybe it's not so cool to like toys as a teenager, but I never stopped buying toys, secretly buying Power Rangers or secretly buying wrestling figures. And the culture's changed so much in the last 10, 15 years, right? It's cool to like toys and to be a nerd and to be into this stuff. So it's always been a constant in my life. But yeah, just acquiring a lot of things along the way. We were gonna move to a new city, and I had a lot of toys from my childhood that I maybe didn't want anymore. I started selling them on eBay, and I realized, man, there's a market for this stuff. So,
Yeah.
Eventually I ran out of things to sell that were my own, and then I started buying and selling stuff, and it just kind of grew from there.
I mean, with social media and like Facebook Marketplace coming into it, before that Craigslist, like people just throwing stuff up, it's like kind of made it easier to go find those collections from people.
Yeah, dude, you're totally right. I mean, it's absolutely true.
But man, it seems like things were always rising in price as everything does over the years. But I feel like even like as a benchmark, the pandemic like really made things skyrocket as far as collectibles and trying to like resell online, keep up with Joneses when you're a reseller, and like prices are going crazy. So it's like you got to find this fine line as a collector. And I'm sure you as a seller of toys, like when you hit like what like you got to find that right price that's going to make people buy but still like get your money out of it, you know?
Yeah, and you're not kidding, man. With the pandemic in the last few years, some toy lines specifically, they went through the roof. Like it got hard. I'm like a huge diehard collector of WWF Hasbros. I've had them my whole life, and man, some of those last series, like the green cards,
Yeah,
those are insane now. 1-2-3 Kid Loose is like $500-600.
like
Bonkers.
who would have thought 1-2-3 Kid would be the figure that you have to pay up for?
So did you grow up in Tennessee, Josh, or did you?
I grew up in Minnesota. I was there until about 2007. Then I was in Illinois for about a decade, and now I'm in Tennessee. So kind of been all over. But yeah, growing up in Minnesota, like I was like born in the early 80s. So like I was all in there for my earliest memories as far as like toys specifically, and that pop culture targeted towards us was like Masters of the Universe and Transformers. And I feel like through my childhood specifically, there's like benchmark years of like, oh, now I'm into this. So it was like first off, like He-Man came out and changed the game, like and knowing as an adult, like as a kid, you don't know, like, oh, they made a cartoon in order to sell these toys, like they're like, how are we going to sell these toys? So let's make a cartoon first. But then you go into like from He-Man, it's like, oh, Ninja Turtles come out, and now I'm into that. And it's just like you said, Hasbro, like WWF picked up at the end of the like 80s really in my life. So then the Hasbros hit, and that was a big toy line in my childhood. But I think like all of it, like if there was something that kind of like defined being a kid and growing up like in the 80s going into the early 90s, it was like when Nintendo came out, when Mario like hit your life, when you got that NES, it just like kind of changed everything. It opened the floodgates of like kind of like entertainment and different things that you're getting into, along with like that video game industry was like more and more cartoons were coming out and entertainment for kids. And like there was just like I feel like that, especially the 80s, like into the early 90s was like this time period where it was like they just threw stuff at you as a kid. There was just no more. I don't know. I mean, in the middle and late 90s, I'm older. I'm going into high school, so I didn't really pay attention to how much they're like walloping the kids over the head with marketing and toys and all that. But it feels like that era before that, like up to like 94 or 95, was just like nonstop, like coming at you with new things. So like when you're trying to like now in adulthood thinking back about those times, and like if you're a collector or wanting to like collect things from that era, there's just like a plethora of memories, which lends it hand to like your business, like bringing all this back for a guy like myself to walk into your store. It's just like would be overwhelming. Like, man, where do I start? I want it all.
Well, it's funny, and like so much stuff that we grew up watching and loving, it's all relevant nowadays, right? Well, like in the sweet period, I always talk to my buddies about, it's like the stuff we grew up on is never been more prevalent in like pop culture right now, right? Like dudes our age, like the stuff when we were 5, 6 years old, it's still relevant. You walk into Target, you walk into Walmart, the aisles are littered with all the stuff we had. And, you know, it might be redesigned or rebranded, but it's very similar to what we had. You know what I mean? Like my son just got into Masters of the Universe, the Origins line. Like we sat on it for a long time. I was like not gonna buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we ended up opening a couple, and next thing you know, man, we're like scouring the earth for all these figures, and they're so awesome. They're so reminiscent of the past, but they've got the modern articulation and the posability and the playability, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, to be honest, they're made the perfect way, and then they have that art and that feel of the old ones that, you know, even make us as old guys nostalgic for those originals. But the playability of those new Origins are just like leaps and bounds above the rubber band legs that we were used to.
Have you opened any of that Origin stuff and had it loose in hand yet?
Yeah, well, like I said, I have a son. He's the perfect age, so like he has a mix of the old and the Origins, and those Origins ones are just like that mosquito from Origins is just so awesome. Like
I think it's so cool that you can like pop them apart at the waist and arms and what have you, and you know it's just part of play nowadays, right? Like mix and match, turn your He-Man guy, put Orko's head on anti-turning He-Man and make him buff. It's like fun.
Yeah, mix and match. And then the fact that they have those lines like the WWE Masters figures that like also interchange with the Origins, and they're kind of using the same sculpts and bodies and whatnot. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But like in the store, what is one of like what would you say is your favorite toy line from like the 80s and early 90s to like buy and sell in the store?
There's a couple. I mean, I already talked about WWF Hasbro's like that. You know, that's probably, and nothing makes me happier than when someone walks in with a box of those, but it's getting few and far between nowadays. And if you are getting them, it's going to be the first 2 series. It's going to be those same figures, beat up, usually, you know, not in good shape. So, you know, outside of that, for me, it's TMNT. That's the funnest thing. Nothing makes me happier than getting a giant bin of TMNT, dumping it out on the floor and sorting all the accessories. That, you know, that's the funnest stuff for me.
And honestly, it seems like, I mean, I know wrestling was huge and Hasbro's were pretty big, but Turtles was a juggernaut. So like, it seems like there's just so much of it still out there. Like, I don't know how it compares to like other lines, but what I see in the variety, it seems like there's more Turtles of like that vintage stuff is in boxes or carded than any other line that I've ran into.
It's fun too. Like you can tell too, but it's like super obvious once you really know vintage TMNT year by year. It's like when people come in with a collection of figures, there's going to be the 1988s, there's probably going to be the 1989s, 1990s is likely, and then every year after that, the stuff that came out in 91, you know, maybe, but once you get to like 92 and beyond, it's pretty rare, man. Even just a random figure, King Lionheart or something like that. You know, he's not gonna come in the shop, but Scumbug, Ace Duck, Wingnut, like they're everywhere. It's
like those lines, those, and like we were talking the other day, like the Hasbro's kind of like dwindle off as they went. There were less and less produced, so that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it also makes sense, like, in my childhood, like, it seems like the first 2 waves of Turtles, like, I was all in. And then when I see that, the later stuff now, I'm like, wow, I don't even remember that guy. I don't think I ever even saw some of those, you know? So it's like I was already out of Turtles by then or something. But, like, speaking of it, like, to go back a little bit about myself, like, and how it pertains and how we connected is like, I'm just a like collector of nostalgia in general. Like it started maybe in like 2011, 2012. I just was struck. I think I saw like, remember that cartoon Cops and Crooks?
Yeah.
Like, I think I saw some of those out like loose at a store and it just took me back. And then it was like, that toy line kind of opened the floodgates where I was just like, oh, remember this. And I was just looking into stuff. And I started this Instagram, like, oh, I had that online, different social medias in about I think it was 2017. I
Okay.
started it like summer 2017, and I also just kind of like started like collecting more and more from that point on too. So, like when you say turtles, like I walked into a toy store in Chicago and I saw this soft head Mikey with the
That's
fan
awesome.
club offer.
Right.
I was like, I have to have that. I'm not leaving without that Michelangelo from my childhood. Still on the
I
card.
know that thing's
Like,
beautiful.
yeah, like it's one of those that like I got a really good deal on it back then. That was like 6 years ago, maybe 5 6 years ago, and now I'm just like, I've seen, like you were saying, the prices of some of these like turtles too. Like it's just crazy how it picked up.
Mm.
But relating to like not just toys, like there are a lot of toys that like give me that nostalgic feel that I'm like, yeah, I'd love to collect those. And now being a father and having a son who's into all this stuff, it like kind of delves into it. Like now he's like, he's into Ghostbusters and
Yeah.
He-Man and all that stuff. But
Right.
like, I also just love like seeing random nostalgic things. So I'm collecting like I have a styrofoam
Oh
container
man,
from McDonald's. Like,
dude, I'm jealous. I want one of those.
like who has that kind of stuff? But like through Instagram, I met all these other collectors and great people who have other accounts, like rerun the 80s and recaptured 80s and back to the 1980s. Those are all guys that I like talk to on here, like on the daily, and they're all collectors of all this stuff too, like vintage like soda cans and candy and different things that are just like take us back to those years, you know. And seeing a
Mm.
store like yours, like you had sent me some photos when we started talking about like doing a live coming up here, and like your store is just like Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like it's like exactly how I would like describe like the best kind of toy store I'd like to walk into, is like just a little bit of everything. And like you had like that Lego wall. Like Legos are something that are like worldwide huge, but like they don't get a lot of love as far as like, I don't see a lot of people talking Legos like in the action figure
Right.
realm. Like,
Yeah, especially in like a
yeah,
vintage toy shop. When
yeah,
you go to them, usually there's not many Legos at all, you
yeah,
know. So we like, you know, because a big part of it, obviously, we're a vintage shop. We want to appeal to guys like us, but at the same time, it's a toy store, right? We want to have a fun environment where kids can come and hang out. That's why we got the Lego table. We have Ninja Turtles ride. Kid can come in and have a good time and maybe get distracted for a few minutes, so mom and dad can walk down memory lane and find some toys they may have forgot about. So yeah, just
yeah.
trying to appeal to everyone. And Lego is just a timeless brand, and there's so many vintage sets. I've learned so much about Lego in the last year that I didn't know before I had a shop. But a
And how,
huge collector community, and
oh
yeah,
yeah,
Lego fans,
and like
man,
there's a whole
they
like
know the stuff, dude.
there's like a whole philosophy behind Lego too, and like engineering and lifestyle things. Like I have a friend who's like in like UX designed, and he's like all in on Lego and like these different like teachings and how it applies to like even engineering and thinking about how things are like built online and interfaces, and it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. But as like a seller of toys, like how do you separate yourself? Are there things that you collect where it's like if it came into the store, you're like, man, I don't know, this
Oh,
might have to go home with me.
absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And it changes. Sometimes it might be one thing, other times it may be another. But yeah, if someone walks in the front door with, you know, a bunch of vintage food fighter figures or, you know, street sharks, things like that, you know, I have my personal collection at home. If it's something I already have, then, you know, it's up for sale. But if it's something I need, there's a chance I'm probably going to take it home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that maybe I don't keep it forever. Maybe 6 months or a year from now, I decide I'm not going to collect that line. I can sell it then. But yeah, dude, if there's something I want that I'm going to appreciate, I'll take it home for a while. Why not? That's part of the fun of it, right? That's kind of that's my WWF Hasbro collection. I refuse to buy the figures I need on the internet.
Oh yeah.
I've needed 5 of them like since I was 10 years old. And one day someone will walk in with the smoking guns and I will take them home and I will be very happy. But
Are you collecting those like loose? Like your entire collection is loose? Or are you collecting on card? Yeah.
Only loose. So I have them all from childhood, right?
Oh, yeah.
I collected them all and up until the last series, the Green Card series. And I'm convinced the state of Michigan because I looked everywhere for 2 years straight. So I've never had them. I did a few years ago. I acquired the whole green card set except Atom Bomb, and they were all mint on card.
Oh, wow.
But I'm not a mint on card collector, so I sold them. So I had them in my possession for a couple of days, but I sold them because I'm not going to open them. And
I mean,
so one day I'll get them loose.
I've watched some of these collectors online, like open mint ones because they're a loose collector, and it's just like, oh.
Yeah, people do it. You know what? I'm not against it. Like, if you're buying it, you have every right to do. But I just know I know there's a mint on card collector that wants it. I can't be the guy to do it. I'm not gonna open it. I'm just not, because I don't need them to be perfect either. I don't care. I've had
like
my
I
whole
was
life.
saying, I have a couple that I want to get from that, like, for the first two waves, and like I don't care if they're a little dinged up, or like if I have to hunt down the accessory later. Like, I just like having that figure to take me back, like, because I think those Hasbros, I was only in for like the first couple, and then I had like one or two from like Series 5, and I didn't get many of those later ones. And like you said, that last line, like not until like being an adult later and like looking those up did I was like, whoa, he had a figure? Like, I didn't even know about those.
Remember back in the day, I don't know if you'll remember, there used to be a couple of different action figure magazines you could buy in the 90s. There was one called like Tomart's or Lee's Action Figure Review was one. Yeah. There was a couple. So one of them, I think it was Lee's Action Figure Review, had a page ad in there, and it showed the green card Hasbros. I saw it at like a sports card shop, sometime in 1994. So that's how I knew, hey, these exist. And then I spent the next 2 years looking for them, never finding them. But that's how you got.
And of course, I mean,
information back in the day, dude, was in a magazine, right? There was no internet. You didn't know how, like lots of toy lines, you didn't know they existed till you walked into Toys R Us and saw them. You know what I mean? You're like, whoa, there's new guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was only, like you said, no internet, so it's like you're going to the stores you know of in your area, like trying to hunt them down or drive around, like pounding the pavement.
Mom to take you to all the stores, right?
It's crazy though. Like, think back, like as a kid though, like there were so many, not just toy stores, but department stores that also had toy sections.
Oh yeah.
So like we're going into like Sears or like any other, you name the department store, and they have toys too. So there were a lot of places to look. Whereas, if you think today, like if we didn't, let's say internet kind of killed those stores, but let's say internet wasn't what it was, and we still also didn't have all those choices. It's like, where does a kid buy toys? So it's like, it's great to see a lot of these independent toy stores like yourself, like popping up again and selling those, not only those vintage things, but newer toys for kids to enjoy. Because like the Toys R Us's and the KB Toys, like like those other ones like Child World and all these other toy stores that existed, like, are no longer around. So it's great to see that these small stores can thrive, and there's still a place for them that's not just buying stuff on the internet.
Yeah, I know. It's not the same. I mean, especially when you're a little kid, there's that feeling of being young and walking into Toys R Us or KB and the action figure aisle, going from the floor to the ceiling, man. Like, it's as high as the eye can see. You can't reach up there. But it's just full of toys, man. That's a big part of the shop. We want it to feel that way when a kid walks in, because you can go to Walmart and Target and the action figure aisle may or may not be full. I know here in southeastern Michigan it's usually empty. I mean, ravaged. Walmart is abysmal. There's never anything on the shelves. You know what I mean?
No, I'll go some days and it's completely like no joke, like pretty much empty.
Right.
And then like a couple weeks later it's like, oh wow, they stocked this again. Like, it's just crazy how it can be totally bare at certain points. I never remember, like, even going to those stores though as a kid. Like, I don't remember like toys ever being like hard to find. I feel like they were always full aisles.
Yeah, it was just when the new set came out, right? That'd probably be the only time it would be hard. If you went, there was a chance, if you were into toy line, you were going to have your pick of many characters to choose from. That's not the case. Even the way toys are shipped now, it's like everything is sent in like a case. I know it's like one single case of one figure, right? Like, here's 4 of this dude and that's it. The peg is just those same 4 figures, right? There's no variety to choose from. And, you know, I don't know. We'll see how that affects the secondhand market. I know with like Mattel, WWE figures, man, those Legends figures that are at Target, those things, they'll ship casefuls of those same characters, and within 2 to 3 weeks, they're on clearance, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you were collecting that line, my advice would be just wait. But wait 2
Yeah.
weeks, and you can get it for half price sometimes. It's wild.
Yeah. And luckily, like, I mean, I got into, like, things from my childhood again, but there's not, like, a lot of new stuff where I'm like, oh, I really want that. Like, as an adult, like, want that toy line that's brand new. Like, it is cool, though, seeing, like you said, going in and seeing those Kenner Ghostbusters remade and looking just like they did on card, you know, at the end of the 80s, or seeing these origins that look like Masters from when I was a kid. Like, those are all really cool. And, you know, I have been suckered into buying some of those, but
Yeah.
I think it's that nostalgic factor of, like, seeing those same figures, like, mint on card that look like just like when I was a kid. Like, those Ghostbusters ones, like, even the art looked pretty much identical to those originals.
They were pretty damn close, right? I mean, you know, obviously the date on the back was different, but from the front, they looked pretty spot on. And when you opened them, they were nicely made. I was okay with them. I was a big fan. Ghostbusters is like my first love. Being a little kid, 5, 6 years old, I can remember having, you know, all of it. And since I've grown up as an adult man with a son of my own who's interested in action figures, I've rebought all of it. So we've got it all at home, and it's definitely one of, like, the top 3 things that gets played with is the real Ghostbusters. You got to have the Firehouse. You got to have the Ecto-1. You got to have your Highway Haunter. You got to have all that stuff.
Yeah, I had to rebuy those old, like, the old 4 guys and Ecto-1 and the Slimer and Marshmallow Man, like, all the ones I vividly remember playing with as a kid. I had a lot of I had, like, all those little ghosts, but I don't think I had any of those, like, those larger ones, like the VW, like the Hopper, or
man, that guy's awesome. One of my favorites.
Yeah, like, because I also was, like, so into, like, things for, like, a short window of time. Like, I'd be into He-Man, and then it was, like, some G.I. Joe, and then it was, like, Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters, and, like, I just wanted there were so many different things that it was just, like, I didn't spend enough time to be like, I need everything from this line. It was just like, on to the next thing.
Yeah,
which makes it hard.
So much of what we got as kids, we always talk about it. We do a podcast every Monday, me and my 2 buddies, TimeBlaster ToyCast, and we always talk about, like, when we were kids, like, all it took was 1 yard sale, and you could have, like, an instant collection of a toy line, right?
Yes.
Like, I know that's how I got my He-Man stuff. I was not buying that in stores. He-Man came out in 1982. I was born in 1982. So by the time I'm playing with this stuff, it's got to be 88, 89. That stuff was not on shelves, readily available. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
I was down the street, outgrew it, and I walked down there with $2, and I got every figure in the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in 82 as well, but I mean, I have photos getting Grayskull in, like, 84 as a 2-year-old.
As a 2-year-old.
Like, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, like, I had He-Man pretty early on, like 2 or 3 years old. Like, I was already into He-Man, but, like, garage sales were key. I mean, I have a sore spot because now Kenner Superpowers, like all the DC guys, they're so expensive. And I had almost every action figure from that line, and like the Batmobile and the Hall of Justice, and my mom sold all of that in a garage sale when I was, like, in high school, and wasn't, like, thinking, like, oh, I better hang on to these. Right. And now it's like, you know, that Clark Kent figure goes for, and Superman, like, even loose, like, they're insane what they are priced now. But, and I feel like that line too is kind of harder. Do you have many of those superpowers come into the store?
Not that often. It comes in waves. Sometimes you'll get some, but, like, currently right now, maybe 3 to 5 loose ones. At one point, maybe 9 months ago, somehow I ended up with, like, 12 carded ones.
Oh, wow.
Which was cool to have because they very rarely come around. Yeah. But that's another toy line that I have super fond memories of, being a little kid buying them. My story for that toy line was, when I was a kid, the hot spot to get toys for cheap was Big Lots.
Really?
Store Big Lots. Yeah. So like
Wow.
Big Lots now is trying to be like Target. But back in the day, Big Lots was just a closeout retailer that got stuff kind of like KB. They'd get it after it was done. They'd buy it in bulk and sell it. And I can remember being 5, 6 years old and just pegs and pegs of Superpowers figures, probably $1 each, $1.99.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
I don't think we had
I
Big
too had
Lots.
a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't think we had Big Lots until like later, maybe when I was high school age or so. I remember there was a Big Lots that took over for like where a grocery store was located, but before that, I can't recall like a good discount store. The only like place that I would count on to go find discounted toys was like KB.
Yeah,
like,
KB was king. Nobody beat KB. Nobody.
Yeah. Like you wait a couple weeks, like you said, and all that stuff was clearance, like
yeah,
$2.
There's toy lines that, you know, I'll get to this day. Someone comes in with some cheap 90s toys or something, you know what I mean? And you'll see some of those KB price tags. And I've seen stuff like 3 for $5,
Yeah.
5 for $10. Like we're talking 98 cents. Like they were just in the business of getting this stuff out the door. And we all have memories of those big wire carts when you walked in and they'd just be full to the top, cards like bent in half. They're just shoving them in this thing. But that was part of the fun of it, right?
Yeah.
Just ravage through that thing and try to find the figures you wanted out of that little bin.
I was gonna ask you, is there some like there's probably a lot from the 90s, but is there a toy line or two where if it walks in, it's just like I don't need those?
There's a couple, and I hope I don't get flack for this, but the one toy line that I just like instantly I'm not interested in is Spawn.
Oh,
Spawn
yeah.
Stuff, McFarlane, late night. Like when I wasn't into it when it came out. You know, McFarlane kind of ushered in a whole new style of action figure and people collecting figures and keeping them on cards. So there's like a million of them in the universe. You know what I mean? Yeah. Same with like Star Wars Power of the Force or Phantom Menace, like the stuff that everyone bought to collect, and they kept it in the package and they kept it in the tote thinking it would be worth money. That's the stuff that's like, man, I'm just not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not interested.
Power of the Force.
I could show you Power of the Force figures in our store right now with price tags in our shop that are like KB prices. You know what I mean? Mint-on card figures, $5. That's just what they're worth.
Yeah, those Power of the Force had that like curse where, oh man, all those first 3 movies, the toys are so collectible. Where when those dropped, it's like, oh, we better buy these and keep them like unopened. They'll be worth something. And
right. That's exactly what happened.
And they just made a ton of them. Yeah, I can't think of a store I haven't walked into where there's not carded Power of the Force. Like,
oh yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't mind having them around, but yeah, I don't need. I'm set. You know, like one good buy of Power of the Force every 6 months keeps the store stocked.
Wow, that's great. Well, yeah, and I was gonna ask you, like, we've kind of talked about it, but what were some things, or what are some memories from like your childhood that really like fed the like buying and reselling and collecting yourself? Like, was it specifically like a couple toy lines? Was it like TV shows that you loved as a kid? Like, what are some of those properties that like vividly got you back into it and got you reselling and collecting? And...
Yeah, I mean, it would have to go back to wrestling, because when I did start selling toys a decade back, it was wrestling stuff, because it was toys I acquired my whole life. You know what I mean? Like, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I probably don't need my ECW figures from old San Francisco toy makers anymore. As cool as they are, I don't need them. Or my Jack's Bone Crunching figures or classic superstars. So that's been the constant my whole life. But I think my my love for like wheeling and dealing and wanting to buy and resell probably comes from like trade shows, like sports card trading shows of the 90s. You ever have you have a trade center where you lived where you used to go, you know, buy stuff? It's just fun, right? Like the price is negotiable. The guy has $10 on it, you know, maybe he'll take 8. It's just fun, right? You know, starting lineups were huge in the 90s. Buying those and trying to make money on them was fun. So, you know, just being around the hobby all these years, you know, the love of it never went away. So growing up and be able to continue to do it and wheel and deal with little kids is fun. Like kids will come in here with toys to buy or trade, and, you know, teaching them the art of the deal. It's fun, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you found, like, is it a good mix of like the mom and dad walking and seeing memories versus like the kids too? Like, are they checking out and buying stuff for the kid and the dad?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of that. You know, most of the kids that come in here, their parents are cool, right? Because they brought them here and they like the stuff that we like. But yeah, it's a little bit of both. I've met all sorts of kids that are into properties or toy lines that you would never expect. You know what I mean? There'll be a 7-year-old kid will come in here and he'll know everything about kind of real Ghostbusters. Like, how do you know this, dude? And his parents will be like, he just watches videos on YouTube. He just knows it. And you can talk to him about Highway Haunter or Tombstone Tackle, and he knows what you're talking about. It's crazy. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, especially with all the toy stuff on YouTube. Yeah. It's just like kids are learning stuff on their own too. Like, are there some new toy lines that you have to have in the store that you felt like are hits right now with kids? Do you carry anything that other than the stuff that's being remade, like we talked about, like Origins and new Turtles? Like, are there new like action figure or like kids shows that have toys that it's like, oh, these are really good, we got to get these in?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things. There's not necessarily, you know, it's hard too. I like to try to, you know, get things secondhand, right? I don't want to order direct from a manufacturer if I don't have to. Okay. So a lot of it's like what's coming in the door. There are a few properties, new stuff that's out there. You ever heard of Gujitsu? You know,
no.
Those are cool, man. That's a toy line that probably came out maybe 5 years ago. It's like they're like stretchy guys, kind of like Stretch Armstrong in a way. And there's a series on Netflix of like little 8-minute episodes to kind of give you backstory of these characters. But I mean, there's not a lot of new properties out there. I mean, walk down the toy aisle, man. It's very, you know, outside of like, you know, Pokemon, which isn't even new. I mean, it's 25 years old, or maybe like Sonic toys or Mario finally having like a legitimate action figure line. There's not a lot of like new stuff. It's all that stuff we grew up on.
It is really weird, like, because the entertainment is so vast. There's so many kids shows on streamers and even on general like network TV and cable, but it's like they don't like market and do a toy line like they did, you know, in the 80s, where it's like everybody's, because I think there's just so much of it. It's like they don't have the audience like back then. It was like we were all watching Turtles, we're all watching He-Man. Like,
I think another big part is like there's not a retailer to take a chance on a new person. Like when we were kids, there's Toys R Us. Like their entire store is nothing but toys. There's aisles and aisles of action figures where they could take a chance on a new property and, you know, see how it goes. That's the story with TMNT. Toys R Us was the first company, their store, to take a chance and make an order for these toys. There was the cartoon was brand new. It was unproven. Are these even going to work? Do people want to buy these? You can't do that now. Target and Walmart their aisle is so small and it continues to shrink. There's no space for a new property, you know? There's dedicated brands like Ninja Turtles that didn't even have a presence in their toy aisle until a month ago. You know what I mean? So it's just not like it was, unfortunately, when we were kids, you know what I mean? Like toy manufacturers could make a play set whose box was 4 feet long and 3 feet tall, and you just stick it on the bottom shelf. That would be 1/4 of Target's aisle. They'll never stock it.
Like the USS Flag?
Right, yeah. Where would that go? Where would that go in Target?
Oh my God.
Nowhere.
That's crazy. Well, I know you took us around the store, but I'd love to see that Ninja Turtles ride at the front of the store, the little coin op again.
I can show you a couple more things. So I didn't show you the ride, and then I'll also show you our bathroom that my wife designed. The whole floor is nothing but Pokemon cards, for one.
Oh, wow.
And you said we had Pee-wee's Playhouse vibes, and I think the bathroom will show that off. I'm showing all right, I'm going to show you guys the TMNT ride. All right, here we go. So this thing, I thought it was from 1987. I thought that's what I found out, but I think I'm wrong. I think it's from like 1991. All right, Winnie, show them. Hit the button. So this thing still works.
Oh my goodness. And you don't even need a quarter.
No, free rides in the party wagon here in the shop.
That
push of a button.
Is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I ever saw that. And what you said it was, you think it's from what year?
I think it's probably from like 89, 90.
Wow.
But it's pretty iconic. I've posted images and videos of this, and I've gotten comments over the years of people like, oh, there was one in the mall that I went to in Arizona. Or so people had it. But yeah, super cool.
Wow, that's
Big fan
awesome.
of that. And then yeah, here, since I'm walking through the shop before we go, we'll show you guys the bathroom back here.
All right.
So we got a wall that we have all our patrons sign when they come in,
nice.
you know. Yeah. And then the bathroom itself, hit the light for me, bud. All right, so yeah, this was the Pee-wee's Playhouse vibes.
Oh, there
kind of like
you
Pee-wee's
go. Yep.
Yep, and then the wall continues. Got a mirror with an eyelash. And then, yeah, here we go. So here's the floor. Let me try to get it.
You just like throw those down and epoxy over them, or?
Yeah, my wife is like the master of epoxy stuff. So like at home, we have a penny floor and we've got a bar top with bottle caps. And she had the idea to do Pokemon cards in here. So yeah, you know, just kind of laid them out and then you cover them in clear epoxy. It takes 2 days for it to dry, but
wow, that's awesome.
yeah, and result is pretty cool.
Wow. Well, it's really, your store is really awesome. I'm glad you guys exist. I can't wait to get out there and see it in person. And we got to do another live like this sometime. It was great to chat with you and walk down memory lane. And I hope it looked like people were coming and going as we were talking here. Did I lose him? I think I lost him. There we go. We'll get Keith back. But thanks everybody for jumping in. I lost you there for a second.
I told you, man. I don't know what I'm doing, but we're good. We're back.
Well, I was just saying it was great to talk to you and see the store. I'm glad you guys exist. I can't wait to see it in person. And I gotta get up there with the kid. I know my kid will be running around that thing, picking stuff out that he wants.
We should make a thing, man. You should find a way to get to Michigan. We can hang out. We can do a pod together. I'll show you some other cool shops.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, man. We could have a good time.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, I'll let you guys enjoy your Sunday evening. I'm sure you got some stuff to do and you want to close up. And
yeah.
we'll have to go live. I'd love to be out. You were talking about the TimeBlaster ToyCast.
Yeah, man.
We got a podcast
coming out. We got an episode tomorrow morning. We're calling it Mall Man.
Oh, nice.
We're going to a Citrus Mall sometime in the 80s or 90s. And we're just going shopping, man, for like 40.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to be on the podcast sometime. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, we just got a new soundboard for the pod. So we've
nice.
mastered the art of having the remotes guests, so we can do it, man. We can make it happen.
Well, thanks so much, Keith. Again, we'll do this again sometime, and we'll see everybody else back on Instagram. But thanks everybody for joining, and until next time.
And thanks again, Josh, for doing all the work, man. You're the man.
Thank you. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you.